How far can one friendship be pushed? Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we're here for another short story discussion, which will appear in two playlists here on the channel. Number one being the short story discussion playlist. Number two being a short story by short story read-along of Ernest Hemingway, the Finca Vigia edition. Today, we are here to discuss the short story The Mother of a Queen by Ernest Hemingway, and this video will have three different sections. Number one being a So What Happened recap of the short story. Number two being a literary criticism section where we talk about all of the literary goings-on in this short story. And number three being the Writer's Corner, where we talk about some of the points that we can take away from this short story as a writer ourselves. So, what happened? Well, Paco is a matador, and he is supposed to be paying his friend for tending to his business while he is in Spain away from Mexico. So his friend, our narrator, has been taking care of things out of his own pocket while Paco is gone. These things include paying for his mother's plot in a cemetery, something that should, according to our narrator, be very, very important to Paco himself. Paco gets back to Mexico, and the payment for his mother's plot comes due, and he never pays it, though he does have the money. The money is kept in a place in the house, a box, a lock box, and our narrator has control of it, but Paco wrestles that control back from him. Our narrator demands his money, his payments for having taken care of Paco's things while he is gone, but Paco says he needs that money. He needs it for something specific, and our narrator is not entitled to it at the moment. Our narrator demands his money, and it turns out that Paco needs it to help another man, a man that our narrator calls a quote-unquote punk, because his mother, the friend's mother, is very sick. This sends our narrator off the deep end, and he leaves, knowing he'll never get paid back. Our narrator sees Paco again years later, and Paco treats him as if he is still a friend. But our narrator tells Paco, what he thinks of him in front of a group of other friends. Friends, very important to this short story. Family, very important to this short story. The idea of owing someone, very important to this short story, but none of those things are very important to Paco himself. So, what is there to talk about in this short story from a literary criticism perspective? Number one is what this short story is about. And the title, The Mother of a Queen, tells us a little bit about the values of our narrator, but I don't think it tells us precisely what the story is about. The idea of the mother is important to our narrator, the idea of family, the idea of people who are close to you. So the question is always, to whom are you indebted and for what? Our narrator has a series of concentric circles, basically. First is family. You owe family more. Then it is your group of friends. Then it is possibly your nation state. Our narrator seems to be sort of incensed, I would say, at the idea of traveling to Spain as opposed to staying in Mexico. And outside of that, you have acquaintances. And the circles for Paco seem to be different. He is valuing this random man, random according to our narrator. Perhaps that man is something more to Paco, which we will, talk a little bit about later. But the other thing what this story, in my opinion, is really about is going off the ledge. So the main action from our narrator's standpoint in this short story, he went off the ledge with Paco. He cut Paco off. He became homeless in the process. He lived, we're left to assume, in Paco's house while Paco was gone, paying the mortgage, etc. Paco seems to live with him when he comes back. He leaves and he says, I don't know where I'm going to sleep. I didn't know where I was going to sleep that night, but he figures it out. Paco, however, goes off the ledge because, in my opinion, because he has lost his dreams. Now, Paco, it is told to us very early in the short story, loses both of his parents early in life, losing his mother early in life as well as his father. The loss seems to have unrooted Paco, who then constructs a vision, a dream, an identity through being a matador, through bullfighting. Then he loses his dreams in Spain. They didn't like the way that he fought bulls in Spain. The narrator says that they saw through him very quickly. So he has lost his dreams. He has lost his family. He is rooting around madly to find something stable. That is what I think the problem with Paco is. And he is making poor decisions. He's choosing people that are quote unquote punks over the people, like our narrator, who has been very solid for him. Now imagine this: stepping into a ring with a bull. It's you or the bull, and people are rooting for the bull. That is kind of, in my opinion, what is really driving Paco through this short story, is that he has lost even the identity that he has crafted for himself. He comes back to Mexico and he only fights, quote unquote, a couple of times, while he was in Spain, his final season, he only fought a couple of times, seemingly disheartened at the entire endeavor. That is what he went over there to do, and he was so disheartened that he stopped even doing that. So Paco has gone off of the ledge here. The Paco character reminds me a lot of Jewel from As I Lay Dying. You see Jewel through that story. His mother, so presumably Jewel is named Jewel because he is the gem and jewel of his mother's eye. He is a spoiler. Maybe I shouldn't spoil that. I'm not going to spoil it, but he is the jewel of his mother's eye, and he loses her. Jewel in that story is sort of off the deep end. He is commented on as being reckless and wayward by his own family members. And this is not an uncommon story, right? People who get uprooted, people who get shaken to their very core by loss, often reach out for something solid, and sometimes they don't grab it. Sometimes they grab something that also is unrooted. After all, that is all that that person knows. So it's very familiar to them when they find other people in other situations that are that way as well. And in the process, Paco, even in this short story, loses his friend that is solid, our narrator. Now, the second thing worth commenting on here, in my opinion, is the idea of machismo. Machismo. A man who is not a real man in this short story. Our narrator deems Paco not to be a real man, so he calls him a queen. He calls him something very, very effeminate. And he says in this short story that the worst insult you can give a man is that he never had a mother. That is an interesting thing in a culture that is so full of machismo, like being a matador. It's interesting that the worst thing you can say about a man in a machismo-based role is that he never had a mother. So the actions of Paco, where his mother is dug up and shoved into a basically pauper's grave to decay there, Paco says that that is liberating for him. Paco says that because of this, he feels free. His mother is around him all the time. Is that the truth? Or is this a lie that Paco has dreamed up for himself because he does not know how to deal with the fact that he is not able to even take care of his mother after her death? One of the things about a machismo type culture is the idea of being able to take care of people. I am so much man that I can create alternate realities, better realities for the people around me, not just myself. These hands have created a reality that is so good that people around me have it better. The last thing in this section of the video that I want to talk about is Queen. So we are told in the short, so Queen is a term that used to be thrown around as a derogatory term towards homosexuals. I don't know that we have the evidence in this short story to suggest that Paco is actually gay. We have to question his relationship with the quote unquote punk. Why does this man mean so much to him? Is that is the other man a lover to Paco? I think is something that you are forced to question because of the terminology used in this short story. But I don't think that we really have any reason to believe that is true. Paco likes to go out and carouse. So, this term, queen, is thrown around even in the title. So, very heavily weighted in this short story is the term queen. I think that this goes back to point 2, where this machismo culture is being weaponized against Paco to, in his absence of manhood, he is being called less than a man, is being effeminized in that way. So I think that this is, I don't know that we have any reason to believe that the quote unquote queen term really fits Paco. I think that it is meant as a slur towards him to further question his manhood. Now, the writer's corner of this short story, there's a couple things worth talking about here. And they both sort of stem around our narration. First of all, Hemingway doesn't waste time. Time is of the essence to Hemingway, and this short story exemplifies that very well. There's a lot of stuff going on here in a very short amount of time. In a very short amount of actual narration, we get a whole lot of the story of Paco and our narrator. We have years of stuff wrapped up into 4 pages. I mean, I haven't counted the words. This short story must be 750 to 1,000 words. I would imagine it's somewhere in there. So this is probably on the verge, on the brink of being flash fiction. If not flash fiction, it is very slightly over being flash fiction. Flash fiction is 1,000 words or less. So to get all of this story in a very short time, we have to have a lot of concise wording from Hemingway. And that is one of the things that makes Hemingway's short stories very, very good. It's one of the things that makes Hemingway's short stories very, very... So you read this book, this is just his collection of short stories, and you have novels worth of information or stories about different characters. The second thing we're talking about here is emotion. Now, one of the ways to make a short story concise is to include no emotion. But we do have emotion in this short story. We have a lot of judgment calls. We have a little bit of judgment in the actual narrative itself, but most of the emotion is through dialogue. And that is one of the things that can make a short story feel more dynamic. Any story, really, feel more dynamic. We have a narrator here who is giving us a pretty cut and dry story. All of the emotion that comes out in this short story comes out mostly There's, again, judgment in the narrative, but the emotion here is all in dialogue. That is something that we can take from Hemingway and use in our own writing, because what it does is it sets up the reason it feels dynamic is that it sets up different expectations from the narration versus the dialogue. And a narrator can give you a very cut and dry short story, and a first person narrator can give you a very cut and dry story while still getting his emotions out in the dialogue itself. And that is what we have here. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, this is the sort of thing, this is the only sort of thing, literature is all I cover on this channel. So consider hitting the subscribe button, stick around for more literature in the future, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.